My name is Robert McGaw, and I'm a Senior Solutions Architect specializing in security operations here at New Rocket. The ServiceNow Utah release is now available for all customers, and it comes with lots of new features to the various security operations use cases, including updates to vulnerability response along with application and container vulnerability, configuration compliance, and security incident response. So today I'm going to walk you through some of the highlights. Starting off with number 5, we have configurable risk rating and risk score mapping for all vulnerability and configuration compliance use cases. By navigating to the following table, you'll be able to find the risk score weights for all of those previously mentioned use cases. The out-of-the-box values are up here, so for example the values on the left-hand side, 1 being critical, 2 being high, are mapped to the risk score ranges here, 90 to 100 for critical, 70 to 89 for high, etc. You'll see here when I navigate to that table, I can see that there are all of those value to weight mappings. And you'll see in this table I've got application vulnerability response, configuration compliance, container vulnerability, standard vulnerable items, and then all the ones that are related to security incident as well. The great thing about this is that previously these values and ranges were hard-coded within the ServiceNow scripts, however now the scripts are meant to reference this table instead so you can modify these values. So say for example I wanted my criticals, my number 1 here, to be 100 to 85 for example, I would just change the top end of high to 84. And now all of my criticals are going to be 85 to 100. Next up, number 4, we have a really nice enhancement to the Vulnerability Manager and IT Remediation workspaces. With Utah, ServiceNow has really made these workspaces fully featured for exception management, and that includes being able to initiate GRC policy exceptions from both of these workspaces. So once you go into Administration under Vulnerability Response under Exception Management and switch Manage Exceptions to GRC Policy and Compliance Management, from the workspaces, you can open up any remediation task, and whenever you go on here and request an exception, you see it's going to initiate a policy exception. So I'm going to have to come in, select my policy, select my control statements for that policy, select my expiration date, my justification reason, and provide my justification as normal, and submit it. And then this is going to go through the policy exception management process as opposed to the standard vulnerability exception process. For number 3, we have another really great enhancement to their Vulnerability Manager and IT Remediation workspaces. Continuing with all the great additions that ServiceNow Utah's offer these workspaces, they've now added the functionality to allow users to be able to respond to their exception questionnaires directly from within the workspaces. So you'll see here, I've got a remediation task for some vulnerable items here, and here I can click Request Exception, choose my expiration date, choose my reason, provide my additional information. Once I submit this, you're going to see my questionnaire is going to pop up right away, and this will be whatever questionnaire you've got configured within the platform, as well as all the mandatory or not mandatory questions or sections that you've configured. And once the user has filled out all of at least the mandatory questions, they can click Submit, and their questionnaire will be submitted with their exception request for approval. Feature number 2 is what I think is probably the greatest addition to the Vulnerability Manager and Vulnerability IT workspaces yet. These workspaces have received some great updates with ServiceNow Utah, but now the workspaces support management of all vulnerability record types, which includes our standard vulnerability types that were previously supported, but now also application vulnerabilities, container vulnerabilities, and configuration compliance test results. In addition to now being able to manage all of these records through the workspaces, which we can now manage our exceptions through these workspaces too, we also have access to all of our vulnerability libraries here also. So here you can see I'm on the vulnerability workspace, in this case the Vulnerability Manager workspace, and I can see that I've got host vulnerabilities, application vulnerabilities, and configuration issues. If I go to our list views though, you can see that I've got access to pretty much everything here. So our standard VITs, which are now under host vulnerable items. We've also got application vulnerable items, container vulnerable items, configuration issues, which are our configuration test results. If I'm managing exceptions, I can see them all here as well. Any approvals, if I've got approvals. And then also our vulnerability library. So here I can see our CVE references, our CWE references, our third-party vulnerabilities, our application vulnerabilities, which are also third-party vulnerabilities, but for applications, our policies, and our tests, or the controls in which we're testing against. The number 1 feature we'll be covering today is the ground-up revamp of the Security Incident Response workspace. Previously, Security Incident Response had the new UI view, but you'll see that this new workspace is leaps and bounds ahead of that one, and I don't even think you're going to recognize it. So first, to install this, you're going to have to install the Security Incident Response Workspace plugin, which you can find on the store by searching up SNSIAW here, and these are the dependencies for that plugin. they will be installed as dependencies when you install the main plugin. Once this is installed, under Security Incident Response, you'll now have the Security Incident Response workspace, which you can open up, and you'll find that here. On the workspace itself, you can see your work, your team's work, and any unassigned work. I'm going to flip over to my team's work here, and you can see all security incidents and response tasks. So from here, you can see everything broken up by priority, by state, by category, by SLA in those specific time chunks, and then any unassigned work here. Now you'll see I can click on some of these different chunks of these reports, and it's going to filter down my list here. So I've clicked on the less than 1 hour due SLA report here, and I can see all my SARs that are due within less than an hour. I can then click on it, open it up, and much like the previous workspace, I can manage the entire workflow of the ticket from the workspace view here. There are a ton of great features in the Utah release of ServiceNow for security operations, and I did have a hard time picking just 5. If there are any features that you're all excited about, please don't hesitate to let me know in the comments below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Once again, I'm Robert McGaw, and thank you so much for watching.